budget itself. Let's open the floor. We've got somebody going around with the mic, and we can pass the mic around, please. Thank you.
So, all of us are happy for when we hear the pay rise, because everybody wants a pay rise. To be paid according to performance and productivity. But my question, why you introduce a pay rise together with a reform? This reform, you say it's a reform, come together with a pay rise. If we have the reform, why don't we have the reform? Because enough awareness should be done, and so we have to aware for it. Just like the PMS when it was introduced, somebody's idea. They introduced in New South Wales, it failed, and in New Zealand it failed. And came to Fiji, it was first implemented with the Ministry of Education, it failed as well. If it's another reform here, if we deserve the pay rise, better. And but like the pay rise come with conditions. Thank you.
Okay. The previously PMS was introduced under one of the other governments. It was not done well. It's just a homegrown initiative they did. They took some ideas from overseas. Does not mean it has not worked well overseas. It was the implementation that was the problem. Now, even if we were to give the pay rise, for example, you're saying we should give the pay rise without the reforms. But then, how can we justify such huge pay rises without the reforms? You know, the difference is this. We have some nurses in Fiji, for example, you know, who help. We're visiting doctors. They do the stenting. You know, they put the cord through here and they go through your heart. But under the old system, prior to the reforms, the difference between a nurse who was putting the dressing on you in the outpatients and that nurse who was doing the specialized area of nursery, where they're working with the doctors where a mistake can actually lead to a death, whereas a person putting the bandage on your cut wound, there's no point of difference, then there's no point giving a pay rise. Because we need to be able to recognize people, like I said, who carry a higher risk in terms of responsibility of the job that they have. Those nurses all complained to me. They said, you know, I've been trained, I work with these visiting doctors. If we make a mistake, the person through whom we put the, whatever those technical things are called, put through to the heart, if we make a mistake, the person can die or get a stroke. So what's it called? ECG, where they do the stenting, ECG. That nurse who helps in the ECG, there's no point of difference between her and the nurse who works in the outpatient putting bandage on somebody's wound. Why give them the same pay rise? That's why the reform is very critical. In the same example that I gave you about that one person in the Ministry of Justice looking after one vehicle, why should he get a pay rise? His level of responsibility has not gone up. He comes to work, twiddles his thumbs, does all sorts of things. All his responsibility is looking after one vehicle. By able to reform the system and by giving the right pay rises, what we are saying to you, those of you who are within the system, we are giving you the opportunity to better your career. We are giving you the ability to actually get more pay rises in very quick forms. The old system meant, you know, you have to go out and then you negotiate 5 years afterwards, then you get one pay rise, 5%, 7%, everybody goes, whoopee-doo, 7% pay rise. But then it does not actually differentiate between the civil servants who are performing a lot better than those who are not. That's also a point of difference. We have teachers. We had a teacher who raped 7 or 8 girls in his own classroom, behind the classroom door. Why should he get a pay rise? Why should teachers who spend half the time in the grog bowl get a pay rise? See, these are the kind of things we need to be able to fix up. So reforms are very critical. A teacher who goes and teaches in a remote school should get rewarded more in terms of allowances. If you look at the allowances, we have not spoken about the allowances. Some of the allowances we've actually increased. Your meal allowance is increased. The other allowances that may also increase. We want the Fijians who live in outer areas or rural, deep rural areas to be able to get good civil servants to go there too. You know, trend has been if you're single or whatever, then you send them out there. May not be high performers. We want the good ones to also go there, but they also get rewarded for it. So please don't look at this reform simply as just the change in the position or just one pay rise. There are many other things that are also happening. Can I get a civil servant, please? Yes. Some people over here.
To the salary band. I just want to inquire as to why non-contracted officers, some are sitting on transitional salary and some are not. The salary, when they sign their contract, it just comes directly on step one or step two.
So step one would be above 15%. That's, it's a straight answer. The step one would have been well above 15%. So we would have therefore, if we didn't have the transitional step, you would have gone onto the lower band and had to actually apply for the position. So that's why the transitional step is there. It's only intended to be there for this year, and then as soon as performance comes in, you'll move to step 1, 2 or 3 as soon as we can get a performance assessment result done. Okay. It was based on your previous salary, so it depends, because you're nurses, yeah? So the nurses, you were on about, not everyone was on the same step, so it depends on what step you were on the previous scale as to whether you went to the transitional step or step 1. It was the maximum up to 15%. If we could get you onto step 1, we did, but for a lot of nurses, because of where you were on the old scales, step 1 was over 20% in most instances, so we couldn't, it was above the 15%, so that's why it had to go onto the transitional.
Thank you. First of all, before I say what I would like to say, I would like to thank the opportunity and thank the Honourable Minister for Economy, that Kevin, for coming down today and ensuring that transparency, the principle of transparency is actually brought down to us. And also the Director, Civil Service Reform Management Unit, Mrs. Jane Curran and your team for being here. I've just been reading the papers for the last 2-3 months. And I've been concentrating a lot on the civil service reform. And I'm pretty sure my colleagues here in the same frame of mind as we have, in a way, demonstrating to you this morning. I'm thankful to the opportunity that is given to us, that you come down to talk to us this morning. Thank you so much for that. My name is Heron Tamani, and I'm from the Ministry of Agriculture. My contract has just expired on the 1st of July, last 3 months, and I'm waiting for the renewal, and hopefully it will come by the end of this month, hopefully. So I've gone through the OMRS processes, the interview, the advertisement. I've expressed my interest, and I've been successful in the interview, and I've been related about that verbally by my director, and I'm just waiting for the formalization of that decision. But I'm here today just to, I can say some of my other colleagues on the other side. I understand the intent of the government to improve this country, Fiji. And for me personally, as a single civil servant, I see a lot of opportunities in here that Fiji can contribute, that I can contribute to national development. Given the fact that we are agriculturally based, I think we have a lot to do for this country to bring the economic status to another level. But I believe that the budget of this new financial year is very impressive. There's increase of budget. There's resources, but maybe there need to be some support given to other resources in terms of staff development, vehicles, and a few other things, so that the section that I was looking after, the research section of the livestock, can do a lot more with the support of the other partners in the government, in the ministry, and also from other ministries and other stakeholders. But speaking of that, I just would like to raise a question, sir. Or not a question, but a request for assistance in the timeliness of, for example, the renewal of the contract. Waiting for 3 months, 4 months. Sometimes we have come to a decision, or maybe I'm not really suitable, even though I have been successful in the OMRS, in the process, interview process. But on the other hand, not personalizing the issue here, I'm just thinking how best can I contribute to this country, because I was a fully sponsored student all through these years for the Fijian Affairs Board, and I have a master's degree in animal science, so I feel a little bit left out, because I know I still want to contribute, but through this, the timing of the process, it has left me sort of lost in some instances. So that's why I'm here today, to get a more clear insight or a depth, get some in-depth knowledge about OMRS and the new civil service reform. And I remember I met one of our lady friend there who presented to us at the Ministry of Agriculture headquarters, I think just for 1.5 hours, which I think was not enough to, get it in from me and other directors, HODs, and the management so that we can take it across to the people down there. But I'm thankful for this opportunity, because hopefully I can get a copy so that when I start, I can inform my staff, 50 to 60 staff that I look after, on how best we can improve our performance, so that we adhere or comply to the new reform. So that's number one. And number two, I just met one of my friends, colleague from the Ministry of Agriculture this morning. I'm not sure if this civil service reform is across the board, because I just mentioned this because I was surprised by the fact that she said that I'm not affected by this civil service reform, because I'm still in the old system. So I said, okay, I think I'll bring it over today. So say that Honorable Mr. Wakami, Honorable Kaim, that's all I give.
Thank you. To answer your first question, last question first, no, everybody's affected by it. To be frank, Ministry of Agriculture is one of the slower ministries that has been a lot more slower in the adoption and adaptation to the new reforms. It's obviously one of the largest ministries too, agriculture. So is, for example, education. As we said in the public consultation with Ministry of Education, in fact, Ministry of Education resisted civil service reforms. They resisted OMRS, in particular the head office, resisted OMRS. There's obviously a culture, Ministry of Education, I've also said this openly before, that a lot of the teachers were, in particular outside of Suva, were beholden to the district education officer, the senior education officer, when they used to have a school function, and when they called the district education officer, senior education officer, dependent on how nicely you make their tea and how nice the garland was, then maybe that's how you'll get a good promotion, a good transfer. That's how the culture was. So obviously we've had that now rolled out to the Ministry of Education. the point you raise about the contracts and the time gap and the lapse, that's purely the HR problem of that ministry. It's precisely what we said to the permanent secretaries. In fact, we've got a gathering of the permanent secretaries this weekend, where they'll also be addressed. That is the primary responsibility of the permanent secretaries. If you look at most of the ministries in Fiji, if you look at the HR department, a lot of them aren't necessarily trained in HR management. You know, people who came in through the administrative system and suddenly found a position and they got into the HR division. So HR has always been very weak. If you look at most ministries, the HR section has always been very weak. They don't necessarily have the compassion, even if you like, in some ministries, to look after their staff. They don't view the staff, the nurses or your type of officers, the other employees, as their clients. They must look after them. They must, for example, ensure, they must have a list. We've told them they should have a running sheet. They should say, okay, these are the 600 employees we have. These are the expiry dates of the contracts. They must know 6 months before and start advertising beforehand. So you, as an incumbent, you have a peace of mind. It's not like on the last day or the day after your contract expired that these things should be done. They should be done 6 months beforehand. They should be then advertised. So even 3 months before your contract expires, at the very least, you know that it'll get renewed or not renewed. That's how the system is supposed to work. Some ministries are doing it well. Some ministries are not doing it well. I have, for example, complained to the chairman of the Public Service Commission about certain permanent secretaries not doing the job well. So they get reviewed. They'll get assessed. Whatever the case may be, whether the contract gets renewed or terminated, that's something for them to decide. But we most definitely actually have a check on how these permanent secretaries are doing their job. So, unfortunately, I'm sorry that happened in your case. That should not have happened in your case. If your contract was expiring, they should have advertised at least 6 months beforehand. You should know beforehand as to what your future will be. But to answer your question, that's how the system is supposed to work. Okay.
Just another query regarding nurses, like the specialized position. Nurses have already signed the contract for 5 years. So if the specialization is coming, so what will happen to them? They will have to do a re-contract or something with that? Because already in this salary they have a band where they are already sitting on, but they are not getting their specialized salary yet.
So if you're contracted on Band F, okay, when the specialised nursing positions are advertised and you're appointed, you will receive a new contract at Band G. Okay. But for the increment increases, so through performance management, if you stay on Band F and you're moving from the transitional step to potentially step 4, you'll just get a letter from the ministry that says, we confirm your performance assessment that you would have already known the result of, and therefore you will now receive this salary from this date onwards. Okay? So it depends on whether you're moving up a band. If you move up a band, it's a promotion and you receive a new contract and it's another 5 years. But if it's an increment step, it'll be a letter to confirm performance this level. This is the step that you move to effective from this date.
I think the other point to also make is that for nurses and teachers, we are saying that the nurses and teachers have an automatic right of renewal. You're staying in those positions. So if, for example, you get a 5-year contract now, when 5 years is up, you get an automatic right of renewal. It does not get advertised for nurses and teachers.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to reiterate with what she had asked. Like, we have signed a contract for 5 years as with the position of a registered nurse. And for example, I am a midwife. In terms of a contract with the conditions and terms, it's written there, we have to carry out the roles and responsibility of that position. As for now, with the scope of practice for the midwife, I am a midwife. How soon are you going to implement specialty for the midwives? Or are we going to sign another contract for the midwife? And also with the same question for the registered nurses with that position. And we have different, we are on the same salary band. Some are on the transition and some on the step 1, step 2, and step 3. And I'm still, to me it's like it's contradictory when you look at the 10 factors of the job evaluation in terms of education and experience. And if we have the same position as registered nurses, why there is a difference with our salary? Though we are in the same band, but there is a difference in the salary. Thank you.
Okay, simply because in transition, you were on different steps before. You had different salary rates before, so you have to go on to the step that gives the maximum up to the 15% increase, okay? So the only reason that you would be on different steps is because you were on different steps in the old scale. And for transition, we don't have any performance data, so we can't allocate the steps based on performance. Okay, so again, that answered the second question first. The first question is, when will we move on to the band G? And that the answer to that, as soon as the ministry gets organised and advertises the positions. But they should have issued acting letters for those of you who are sitting in the specialised positions. The ministry should have issued acting letters. If they haven't done that, see me afterwards and I'll take some actual details and go back and check with the ministry more specifically for you. On your individual cases. So how we normally run these sessions is when the minister starts to talk about the budget, I'll go out the side and you can come and give me specific details so that we can look into individual cases. Okay?
Ma'am, like you said, I'm still not satisfied. We were not on the same salary. Like we are on the same salary, but as for the new change, we are different. Like you mentioned that you may be on the same salary when it comes to this change. That's why you're on different, sorry. But when you come to this change, you have the different like transition and steps. But like we've noticed that we were on the same salary, same band, but different steps. And just for the position, I'm just concerned about the legality of our work and the scope of a registered nurse and a midwife. And now I have signed the contract for a registered nurse. And what about my practice, the legality of my practice as a midwife? And right now I'm carrying out the role and responsibility of a midwife. And I'm just querying the legality of my practice right now while awaiting that specialty to come in house soon. Thank you.
All I can say about the speciality is that the ministry was supposed to issue the acting letters at the same time as the contract. Okay? If that hasn't happened, we will follow up with the ministry on the acting letters. Okay? In terms of if you're on the same salary before, then you should have gone to the same step. So you'll have to give me some details and I can check, because the payroll reports that I have were just automatically generated and they show that everyone who was on the same salary before has gone to the same step in the band. So you'll have to give me details and I can check. I can't check without looking it up in the payroll. Okay?
Thank you.
So those of you who have those kind of anomalies, please raise it afterwards. Jane can check it. As I said, that some of the ministries, the HR division is not very good. Some of them a bit slower. Like, for example, you should have been, for example, given the acting letters. Where you're supposed to be. If you have not been given the acting letters, then obviously there's something that wrong is happening. So please raise that with us. This is why we hold these consultations, so we get a level of feedback, so we can check that. Okay. So please stay back and give the details. Anybody else got questions? This side.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Minister and the Acting Prime Minister. Thank you for coming along to grace us with this reform. I stand here representing 240 dental practitioners in Fiji who are serving in the public sector, and Dr. Mehar is here with me, who is our national president of the association. I have a few issues. We've been chasing after you, sir, since the budget of 2016. with the announcement of a big salary increase for medical doctors when dentists were left behind. Dentists and medical officers used to have this level of salary. After 2016, it went up too far high, and we were left behind. And then again, we were hoping this job evaluation review would sort out that and other anomalies that existed in our structure, but it didn't. While it may be unethical to go against the reviewers, the reviewers' recommendation with whatever has been given up here today. We've met with Bunny and Kiran before at the headquarters, and we were given a different bands. In the snapshot this morning, it's only the dental technician that were reflected here, which again has changed from what was given to us. And my question is the competence of the reviewers. Because just yesterday we did apply for a re-evaluation. Just yesterday we put our papers together, the two documents, the JDs and the questionnaires. And I'm surprised that figures are already flying about for the peg for the dental technician, as I can see this morning. However, also with our resubmission for re-evaluation, we did not include the dental hygienist, with the fact that we were happy with the score that was given to them after the first round of evaluation. Thank you. And yesterday we were highlighted by our Director HR that they have been given a lower score. So that is a big question for us to ask about the reviewers and how they carrying out the process. Having said that, I'm happy with the reform. We want to work together to make it work. And at the same time, we want to see that our dental officers are remunerated according to their work output. It is a specialty, okay? The Honorable Minister always talk about development, specialized. We do have specialized areas of training, and there are dentists who have come out with postgraduate qualification. They are now operating in the main operating theaters in hospital in CWM and also in Lautoka. They're working hand in hand with medical doctors. But then since last budget to this budget, the principal dentist working around the hospital ordering the medical intern is getting less salary than the medical intern. So you can feel how bad is that in the relationship of work. And we were really hoping that this job evaluation review will do good for us, but eventually it didn't, and we hope to continue to negotiate with these two beautiful ladies to get it right, sir. We have made submission through your office. We've been talking to Jocelyn since 2016. There was no feedback from her after that. We've been talking with Sima, the senior legal officer in your office. She said she's going to arrange a meeting, but there's no response ever since. And like I said, we've been chasing you, sir, since 2016. We are happy to come this close to you today. And we're hoping that you can take this on board and also try to look at the anomalies that existed in our structure. Having said that, like dentistry have changed. There are specialized people that have come out in the field of dentistry. They're performing big surgeries in hospitals, and they are still dental officer. It's like a dental officer down the road in Wanibakasi, and the dental officer is cutting up in the surgery in the theater are paid the same, and that is not right. So there has to be a re-evaluation of our structure with new position. I know these bands and things that are coming out. I know Bunny and Ms. Jane have informed us that dentists are put in the trends too. But I think dentists are like engineers, lawyers, medical officers. they should be put in that range and allow this better remuneration and reflection of the work and the responsibility that they do in managing their patients. I think I've said too much. Thank you for your time.
I won't go into too much detail. There's a couple of things. I've actually got 3 submissions from the dentists on my desk, and we've organised with Joe for a meeting on Thursday. So maybe the communication hasn't come out yet. Just in terms of job evaluation, you can't fix a structure through job evaluation, right? One of the principles of job evaluation is that you evaluate the job as it is, not how you want it to be or how it might be in the future. So what happened with nurses is that the ministry had actually made the decision that they were going to create this specialised category of nurses, and we evaluated the jobs accordingly. You can't evaluate and create a structure based on the evaluation. Okay, they're separate issues. So we've evaluated what came in and we've reviewed what came in, but we can't change the structure through job evaluation. That's a separate issue. So we need to have the conversation with the ministry about the restructure, create the jobs, and then reevaluate. That's how it gets addressed. Okay? So that's why it's been taking a little while. We've been having those conversations with the ministry about separating the job evaluation and the restructure. Okay? So in a nutshell, that's what's happening. And yes, a review can result in going up or down, right? It's a review.
You know, I think as Jane was also saying, a lot of it is driven by what the ministry tells us. So what they tell us, like, you know, if you want to create a new structure within your ministry, within that particular cadre of say dentistry, they need to tell us. And as she said, then the review is carried out in respect of the structure itself, whatever structure they give us. With the nurses, they wanted to create a special category of specialized nurses. That's why their salaries then were based on that. They got a, 70% pay rise. With yours, they did not tell us. Of course, now you're making the submission. And we, of course, once the submission is made, then we can look at it separately.
So it's a privilege and honor for you to be here this morning, and we are so grateful for you and your office to be here so we can share. In fact, at the moment dentists have been categorized as non-essential services, and hence we have been delivering the service to the community at large, the schools, the outreach, and the public. So this is the difference. This is the big gap between the medical officers and the dental officers. We do the same services. We are in the high risk. We do our own diagnosis with the treatment at large. But then when we sit and think that dentists are non-essential, so where's please, we want justification also. Because our ministry needs to see in that vision that how important the nurses, the dentists, and other cadres like our physiotherapists, our lab technicians, x-ray technicians, all. Because we work as a team with the medical doctors, and hence we are regarded as non-essential. So please, if that can be seen also. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Would you like to make a comment, a question? Can you pass the mic, please?
Now, so on this piece of paper, Trends 3, in September. September is about to finish.
It came out yesterday. So the lists for Tranche 3 were sent to permanent secretaries yesterday, and I actually asked payroll on the weekend to start generating the reports, and they haven't sent the reports through. So the results are with the ministries. It took a little while longer to moderate in Tranche 3 because there's a lot of technical jobs, as you would know, in Tranche 3, so it took a while. but the lists are confirmed. They were signed off by the Job Evaluation Leadership Team yesterday. You'll see some of them are actually in the snapshot that we've provided. Some of the results, I put them in last night to give an illustration for like surveyors and engineers, particularly legal officers. But there's too many jobs to fit into a couple of pages. So the full lists are with your permanent secretaries, and they should start to filter those out in the next couple of days. Okay. And I'll just go back to the question about like the dentists and the medical officers. Okay. The medical officers were supposed to be in tranche 2. I know I'm going to upset the medical officers, but we actually moved them to tranche 3 because of the fact that they'd already had a salary increase. So instead of keeping them with everybody else who was in health, we put them back into tranche 3 for that reason. So it wasn't that we were looking at dental officers as not being with them. It was more that we had actually planned to do all of health in tranche 2 and then decided, well, seeing they'd already had a big increase, we would put them in with the last tranche. So.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, important to note another thing that I want to mention is that we have a medical and dental decree 2010, and dental practitioners and medical practitioners are registered under the same legislation. We pay the same fee to attend the professional scientific session for professional development. We pay the same indemnity if you are in a private practice. You have to have your own indemnity, also in the public sector. So we don't know why, when the list came out, we were plugged together with the allied health. We are not part of allied health. We were part of the Fiji Medical and Dental Decree 2010.
It's no longer called a decree, it's called an act. And maybe that lumping together is not necessarily the right thing, but that does not necessarily mean therefore it should equate to the same salary level. That needs to be carried out independently. But of course, that, as Jane said, they'll take place. The other point I just want to highlight to you is that please take note of this, because those of you who will be within the system, and of course will be applying for jobs within the system, you obviously want to do better than your colleagues if you're applying for a particular position. So the Civil Service Reform Management Unit actually provides training through the Ministry of Civil Service too. So if you want to know how to write a better CV, if you want to know how to perform at an interview, they can provide the training for you. All you have to do is simply request that. And you have specific queries. Some of you may have individual queries you want to raise after this. Some of you may feel a bit embarrassed to raise it. You can email it to that email address. We've had a lot of people who've done that, and we've had matters resolved. Also, if you may find that people within the ministry may not be doing the right thing, please send it to that. That does not get seen by everybody. It only gets seen by 2 or 3 of us. So you can raise your personal matters through that email address too. Okay? It's very important. But you know, like I said, within the civil service now, you should be able to compete with each other and be able to do better CVs and how you can market yourself as an individual to be able to, you know, get that better positioning, if you like. If there are no other questions, I can take you through. Are you okay for me to take you very quickly through the budget? You can understand what's happening.